So it's already been 3 months since Sky launched its spangly new Glass 2 smart telly for streaming all your shows, movies, sports, whatever you like to watch to distract yourself from the torment of everyday existence. And this improves on the original telly box in a few key ways, but as I've discovered, living with Sky Glass 2 these past 3 months also suffers from a couple of very familiar problems. So here's my full Sky Glass 2 TV review, and for more on the latest and greatest tech, please do subscribe and ding that notifications bell. Cheers! Now with Sky Glass 2 you got a choice of 3 sizes, precisely the same sizes as the previous generation: 43 inches, 55 inches and 65 inches. My review model is the biggest version, the 65-incher, which happily fills the corner of our living room, but isn't ludicrously huge. The Sky has also offered a choice of 3 colours for that chunky anodized aluminium frame, either black, silver, or a rather fetching blue. So you can choose a colour to fit in with your home decor. In our case, we just moved into a new house last year and we can't be asked to actually change the decor, so it's still a 1970s special, so I wasn't really that bothered. Like the first generation, Glass 2 is a serious chunkster, but you've got a completely flush back and small alcoves for all the necessary ports, so you should be able to slap it on your wall with the bundled brackets and everything, no worries. We've just been using the bundled stand, and admittedly it isn't what you would call the sturdiest of setups. Even just walking past the Sky Glass 2 in a rather determined manner can set it trembling slightly. And it's a respectable enough selection of ports around the back end of the Sky Glass 2. You've got a trio of HDMI ports. The middle one supports eARC if you want to hook up a soundbar. You've also got Type-C and Type-A USB connections and an aerial port. Bit old school that, because of course the Sky Glass 2 mainly relies on streaming, and you do have an Ethernet port if you want to get hardwired into your modem or router, rather than relying on the Wi-Fi for all of your streaming needs. Unfortunately, our router's in a completely different room, so I didn't have the chance to test that out. But of course, Sky, as always, is emphasizing the fact that the Glass 2 is designed as a standalone device to do absolutely everything you need it to. Unless that thing is gaming, but more on that later. But you shouldn't feel the need to plug in extra streaming boxes, etc. Now the most significant upgrade for the Sky Glass 2 TV compared with the original box is that 4K quantum dot display, which now packs in even more LEDs for improved contrast. You got brighter whites and darker darks, so HDR content really shines. And yet you got full support for HDR10+, Dolby Vision, etc. Now in auto mode, those visuals will be tweaked by the telly to suit whatever you're watching, but sometimes those visuals can be a wee bit murky when you leave it up to Glass 2. And it is still quite a reflective panel, which is all too obvious when watching darker scenes. So for large portions of Dune Part 2, for instance, I was basically just staring at a reflection of my own face, like some kind of featherless budgerigar. That's why I would say, certainly for certain content, and if you are struggling to see what is going on, switch off the auto mode and flip it to something like the vivid mode instead, which really boosts the brightness, really improves that clarity. And Sky Glass 2 includes plenty of other modes that you can tinker about with, the likes of a sports mode and entertainment mode and ultra vivid mode, with the kind of hyperactive visuals that make you feel like you just injected a whole tub of Haribo directly into your corneas. Especially entertaining if you smash some LSD and then chuck on Dan Da Dan, I would imagine. There's also a full-on custom mode where you can dive into the Sky Glass 2's settings and manually tweak the likes of the brightness, the contrast, the color temperature, etc. if you want to fine-tune it to just the way you like it. And besides the auto mode being a bit too dark at times, I didn't really notice any other particular visual issues, to be honest, nor juddering when I was watching fast action in the likes of a football match. And you got reasonably wide viewing angles as well, so good news if you've got quite a large family or you actually have friends who come round and watch TV with you. Can't say I tested it with any friends, but me and the cat were happy enough. Sky has also boosted the audio for Glass Gen 2 with the original 6 speakers bumped up to a total of 7. And this once again consists of a built-in soundbar with a woven mesh cover, as well as top-firing blasters which can fill a small room with quite immersive Dolby Atmos sound. and this certainly adds greater width and height to that audio. It's not quite a match for a proper surround sound system, of course, but for a standalone TV setup, it's pretty bloody good. It's particularly good when enjoying an action movie or, of course, a good bit of footy. Middlesbrough fans will be able to hear every frustrated roar of the crowd as if they were actually there, with the added benefit that they're not actually there. Those vocals are crisp and clear, even on the lower volumes. There's a vocal enhancement mode as well, which doesn't seem to do a huge amount, but I found that I could watch my shows turned right down if there was a wee one trying to get some kip. As for the SkyOS experience, the actual software side of things, well, I'm still generally a fan, very few complaints, and of course it's great that Sky is constantly updating this thing as we go along, so it has actually evolved a fair bit from what we saw in the original Sky Glass when it first launched. Everything flows rather well, and yes, I would prefer that the HDMI outputs weren't just mixed in with the rest of your apps, but that just goes to show that Sky is really not expecting you to hook much stuff at all up to this telly. All of the major streaming apps are supported, and a lot of the more niche stuff as well, including good old Crunchyroll, although still no love for Shudder, unfortunately. Continue watching is absolutely fantastic, including stuff that you've been watching on third-party apps like Netflix and iPlayer, etc. And you're certainly not short of recommended content here on SkyOS. If you're ever stuck wondering what to watch, you can literally just scroll down and across for years. The voice controls and voice search are back as well, of course, with Sky Glass 2, and it seems to be slightly less shonky these days. With my original Sky Glass, it was constantly activating when I was just chatting with other humans, or more likely the cat. Whereas I've rarely seen that happen on Sky Glass 2 these past 3 months. And also, that Find My Remote feature is an absolute wonder. Especially if your kids like to hide the sodden things, you can't switch off their crap and watch whatever you want to. Not that you really even particularly need the remote control anymore, thanks to the voice search, which is good enough. You can wake up the Sky Glass with your voice and then basically just ask for whatever you want. You can ask for recommendations, you can ask for specific shows or movies, and of course Sky Glass will search across all of your chosen services to try and find it. And you've even got motion controls, so the TV can turn on when it detects that you've entered the room. This drives my wife absolutely nuts whenever she just walks into the room to sit down on the sofa and read a magazine or a book, and frankly, it's worth getting a Sky Glass 2 just for that. My only real bugbear is that SkyOS also tempts you with shows and movies from services that you don't subscribe to, like in my case Apple TV and Prime Video. Thankfully, Apple TV is mostly just complete toss, but Prime Video does have a few bangers on there that I'd really like to dive back into if I didn't already subscribe to like 5 different services, none of which I've got the time to actually bloody watch. Unfortunately, however, Sky Glass 2 will once again make any gamers out there feel like second-class citizens, because this thing has very much been designed for watching, not playing. I was absolutely sure that they would at least give you 120Hz refresh rate support with Glass 2, but nope, this thing still peaks at 60Hz, like it's a stupid iPhone or something. And likewise, there's no kind of gaming mode, there's no built-in gaming features, unlike rivals from the likes of Samsung, for instance, which offer a veritable smorgasbord of gaming tools, including the ability to stream games through the TV using services like GeForce Now and Game Pass. And in fact, if you turn on your PS5 or Xbox or whatever while it's hooked up to the Sky Glass 2, it won't even automatically change inputs to bring the console up. You'll just have to do that yourself manually. And those Wi-Fi issues from Sky Glass 1 sadly make an unwelcome return. They are frustratingly not fixed. So a few times during the past 3 months I've switched on the Sky Glass 2 only to be met with the message no network connection and zero access to any of the apps or services. It basically just turns into a giant pointless paperweight. And while you could go through the rigmarole of entering your Wi-Fi details all over again, I found it was generally much quicker and easier just to unplug the Sky Glass 2 for a couple of seconds, plug it back in, and by the time it's booted back up, the Wi-Fi is magically working again. And also, not very often, but a handful of times this past 3 months, the action has completely frozen when we've been streaming a movie or a bit of footy, while it seems like the Sky Glass 2 is just doing a bit of buffering in the background. And that can be just a wee bit irritating, especially if it's right bang in the middle of a particularly exciting bit of action. And no idea what's causing it, because I've had absolutely bugger all issues streaming content on a massive variety of other devices using the exact same internet connection and Wi-Fi setup. So I'd certainly say, if possible, get your Glass 2 connected to the internet via Ethernet rather than using the Wi-Fi, although again, it's only happened a handful of times, so it's not been terrible. And certainly streaming Sky content to a different TV using the original puck that I got with the first Sky Glass has been absolutely fine. And there you have it, my lovelies. That in a tasty wee nutshell is what I reckon of Sky Glass 2 after using this whopping great chunkster of a telly for the past 3 months. Now also, do not forget, if you are on a very tight budget, well, Sky is launching a more budget-friendly version of the Glass later in 2025, known as the Glass Air. You've still got a pretty bloody good 4K quantum dot HDR screen, if not quite as bright or spangly as the Sky Glass Gen 2, while the audio experience has also been trimmed back, though you get the same SkyOS experience and the same choice of 3 sizes and 3 colours, this time black, white and green. Now, if you've been using Sky Glass 2 in your home setup, well, definitely let us know what you reckon down in the comments below. Please do poke, subscribe and ding that notifications bell for more on the latest and greatest tech, and have yourselves a ruddy, wonderful rest of the week. Cheers everybody, love you!